Hey guys, welcome to Tiff Talks. In today's video, we're going to be talking about my hot takes on Gilmore Girls. So, in terms of parenting, people praise Loralai for being so chill, she feels like your best friend. Especially if you're a teenager watching the show, you really long to be understood and listened to sincerely and have your opinions matter. She's kind of praised for being like this amazing chill mom, but I just want to point out that this character is very deeply flawed. In the storyline, she says she wants Rory to be her own person and this and that. But the thing is, deep down, she is projecting a lot on Rory. Lorelai got pregnant with Rory at a very young age. When she was 16, and pregnant and ran away from home. And eventually, her and her parents do reunite and reconnect. And the grandparents do have a relationship with Rory. Rory is a very smart and academic girl. I feel that because Lorelai's parents view her as a failure because she got pregnant at a young age. She didn't finish high school. She didn't go to an Ivy League. She's not a CEO. She like a Fortune 500 because she didn't follow the path that her parents believed she should. They view her as a failure. I feel that maybe in a more subconscious kind of way, she feels that Rory needs to go to Harvard because if she goes to Yale, that'd be too close to her family because her family went to Yale, and she doesn't want Rory to go somewhere where she has a legacy, has like a legacy status, because if Rory gets into Harvard with Lorelai being her mom, it almost makes up for her being a failure for not going to college at all. I feel like that's really what was on her mind a lot of the times. And a point you could see this a little bit is there's a point early on, Lorelai makes this loose comment of Rory's been dreaming of going to Harvard since she was 3. I remember that line so distinctly because with my job, to be honest with you, I talk to 3-year-olds every day. The age range I deal with is 10 months to 4, maybe 5. So I talk to 3-year-olds every day, and the average 3-year-old can't even perceive really what a college is. Sometimes if they have an older sibling or like someone that's close to them in their life that is going to college, they kind of have somewhat of a concept of like this person goes away and they're learning and they come back and they're going to get a job. But the average 3-year-old, they don't even know what a college is, really. They kind of just think, if you ask them what they want to be, they just kind of say stuff they're interested in, some things that they see around them. But like they're not, I want to go to Harvard. That's not a normal thing for a 3-year-old to say. And I think the only reason Rory would say that if she's 3, if that did happen, was because Lorelai would have to be projecting it onto her and like talking about it. So I don't know. I mean that's just like my opinion on that. I feel like another huge flaw with Lorelai is she flip-flops back and forth between being a parent and being a friend. And you see this very early on. So in essentially the first episode, Rory and Lorelai get into this fight because Rory is saying she doesn't want to go to Chilton anymore and she wants to stay in Stars Hollow. Lorelai figures out that Dean, this boy, talked to her earlier, and she thinks that's why Rory doesn't want to go to Chilton anymore, and she feels like Rory's derailing her whole life and this and that. And they're fully in the heat of this massive argument. And oh my god. And in the middle of all of that, she's just like, okay. Just tell me about Dean. Just tell me about him. I'm listening. No, if there's something you care about, I want to hear it. And it's like, Lorelai, now is not the time. You're in the middle of this heated argument, and then you want to flop back around to being like, oh no, just tell me about him. No, like, you know what? Like, we've always been friends. I want to hear you out. And it's like, you clearly don't, because like we've been arguing and screaming at each other. Like, Lorelai can't give a little bit of space to Rory. And and in her mind she's just like, okay, I want to put the argument on pause to be friends. And then it's like, and then when Rory's like, no, that's a lot, she just explodes. The thing is, I feel like in the moment, I feel like she just would have to let it go. Like, you don't because honestly, probably the next day, even if she didn't say anything, like Rory would probably be like, that was a little bit silly. But she doesn't do that. I feel like another example of this was when it's an episode where Lorelai's house was being destroyed by termites, and she was being very stubborn about asking her parents for money to fix her house because it was being eaten by termites. Everything was getting hollow. Everything was a disaster. And this is something that she talks to Rory about. She even wakes up Rory in the middle of the night being like, oh, I think I hear the termites. I'm scared. Maybe we should sleep somewhere else. Like, oh, I don't know. Like, she's like venting so much to Rory. And Rory tells the grandparents about the situation, Laura about the termites. Lorelai is furious because she's like, hey, I said we're not talking about it with my parents. I'm the parent here. I've always made sure that you've had everything you need. So I don't want you to feel like if I say something, you just go over my head and like, she's like freaking out. But the thing is, like, and then at one point, Lorelai goes like, I've always given you everything you need. Haven't you always had a roof over your head and food to eat and books and even book covers and anything else you wanted? And da 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 da. It's like, how dare you? Like, I'm the parent here. Da 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 da. And it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. The thing is like, first of all, I don't think you've always given Rory what she needed. Considering the fact that you were 16, you ran away, you found Stars Hollow, you found this hotel, you were a maid, and then that owner of that company opened up the shed in the back in Connecticut for you and Rory to live in. And it's a shed, so those walls are not insulated at all. I don't know how you stay warm, to be honest with you. And it's literally like a shed, and it's like, so Rory, in her very foundational years between, we're assuming maybe birth and like maybe 4 or 5 years old, she's living in this pretty like extremely intense environment of like living in a shed, in Connecticut. Like that's kind of brushed over like real quick. And also, anytime you're having issues with your parents, Emily and Richard, or like you're having issues, you're venting so much to Rory. And like, for example, like when your dad came to visit, it's like, oh, Rory, can you hang out with him? Like, I just can't. Like, I just can't, and this and that. Like, there's so many points you're talking to her as a colleague and relying on her to regulate you. And Rory really feels the weight of being the bridge between you and your parents to try to mitigate problems and to make sure everyone like gets along. She really feels that role very heavily. And then so you treat her as if she's a fellow adult and you're figuring everything out together. And then now you're saying, it's like, oh no, I'm the parent here, da 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 da. It's like that's way too much flip-flopping. Like, I don't know. Like, you always talk to her like she's a fellow adult and you're figuring out life together, which is that, if that's what your parenting style is, then like, okay. But like, to be acting like that the whole time. Oh, also, when Max was first when you were engaged to Max and he was living with you guys, you sneaked into Rory's bed and was just like, "Oh my god, there's a guy here. Oh my god, I feel so weird about this. Da 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 da. This and that. This and that." So, but you're the parent, right? You're the parent. And even though when you're feeling anxious and you're feeling a certain way, you go to Rory for comfort and you go to Rory for advice. Like when you wanted to break off your engagement and then you drag her along that ridiculous road trip. And I'm glad you visited Harvard and whatever, and it was kind of like a fun episode at the end. Like you were really relying on her. It's just like, no, no maps, no maps. I just want to drive and be adventurous. It's like, okay, but, and then Roy's just like, okay, but like, where are we gonna eat? Like, what are we gonna do? Like, where are we even going? Like Rory's just like, listen, I understand you want to be adventurous, but we can't be abstracted in the moment to that degree where we don't even know where we're driving. Like, hello. So like when you're doing all this stuff, when you're acting like a literal child and then looking to Rory for like support and comfort and emotional regulation and logistical next steps on what to do, were you like kidding? Like, was that just like fake? Like, were you able to regulate yourself the whole time? Do you know what I mean? It's just too much. It's too much. Okay, another thing is her extreme lack of boundaries. Lorelai's lack of boundaries is so insane to me. We see this very early on. So she sees at Rory's birthday, she sees that she's kind of sneaking out in the backyard just to talk to Dean for a few minutes, and she's feeling some sort of way, being like, "Oh, I remember when I sneaked out to talk to boys, and now Rory feels like she has to do the same thing for me, and da 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 this and that. Like, oh, I don't want her to feel like, we see, like, she never says that, but we see the look on her face. She's like, so like, oh my god. It's just like, yeah, of course she snuck out to talk to him, because the last time she mentioned his name, you like exploded. This is the thing, parents. I feel like people need to understand. Like, you could say like, oh, like I want a relationship where we're honest and we talk to each other. You could say that till you're blue in the face. But the thing is, if you're a kid, if someone is telling you something you don't like and you react in an explosive way, you're creating an environment that's too hostile to be open and talk. I don't know. And and there's an episode where her and Rory are gonna eat junk food and watch Willy Wonka and like have like a little girls' movie night. And she sees Dean, and while they're checking out candy in the store, she sees Dean. And then while Rory is going to rent the movie, she invites Dean to come over. And Rory is horrified because it's just like, we haven't even been on a real date yet. And now the first date is going to be with my mom. This is too much. Like, it's just like, you didn't even ask me. Like, this is not how I wanted this. And then she says, like, what would you do if your mom did this to you? Like, wouldn't you feel weird about it? And then Lorelai's like, oh my god, now you're comparing me to Emily Gilmore. You think I'm just the worst person? You think I'm that bad? And da 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 da. And it's like, Rory has a right to be upset. Can you imagine how humiliating and anxiety provoking it is to have your first date as a teenager and have your parent right there, and have your parent be the one that asked him to come? And so now during it's their first date and you initiated it and you were there, and then during that first date you're like giving Dean the talk, and it's like been their first date. Like, that's an extreme lack of boundaries. And when Rory expresses that she's upset about it, now you're upset that she compared you to Emily, and now she feels like she has to pretend like she's fine to like regulate you. Like, that is just so like, no, like Rory had every right to be upset in that moment, and Lorelai was dead wrong for that. She's like, no, I mean, I figure it's the guy she like, and da da da. It's like, no, like, you need to give her space to be her own person. And you know what? You were acting like Emily Gilmore. She is more alike than her mom than she realizes. She is very controlling, to be honest with you, but like, she's controlling, but then she has these moments of being like fun and spontaneous and sporadic, and she thinks that like makes up for it or something. I don't know. Like, I feel like she is very controlling of Rory in a way that she doesn't even realize, because Rory is like more easy to control. She has a very different temperament than Lorelai does in certain things. I don't know. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for joining me for my hot takes on Gilmore Girls.